I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch network. Donald Trump continues to make some of the most vile and reprehensible statements on his social media platform, and specifically threatening special counsel Jack Smith. He's become absolutely obsessed with special counsel Jack Smith. And one of the things that we know is that there's been a flurry of grand jury activity in Washington, D.C. in the various criminal investigations of Donald Trump. And so Trump is clearly scared. He's clearly desperate. We here at the MeidasTouch network believe that we can cover our eyes and close our ears to the fact that the MAGA Republican Party, which is the Republican Party today, is a cult. It is led by a weird, deranged, wannabe authoritarian cult leader in Donald Trump, and we got to call it out since the large media networks are not. And let's go look at what Donald Trump has been posting. This is what he said. He goes, "What Biden did was wrong, but he was given a reasonable and stable special counsel who is sane, inclined not to make waves, friendly with rhinos, and is not known as a flame-throwing lunatic or a Biden hater. What I did was right, secure documents in a secured place, lock on the doors, guards and Secret Service all around, security cameras working. Mar-a-Lago is essentially an armed fort and was built that way in the 1920s with high walls and structure to serve as the Southern White House." Before going to the next post, let's just point out that everything he's saying here is untrue or a threat directed at special counsel Jack Smith. Again, calling Jack Smith here essentially a flame-throwing lunatic, to use these words. Further, Donald Trump here did not do everything right. He did everything wrong. Mar-a-Lago was not a secure place. The documents were not secured. And what Donald Trump is being criminally investigated for, we have to just repeat it over and over again, because I think the large media networks aren't telling the truth here, and no one seems to be really talking about what the right issue here. It was Donald Trump's concealment, his obstruction, his destruction, his mutilation, and other conduct that could constitute espionage under the Espionage Act. The August 2022 search warrant does not list any potential crimes related to the existence of classified records at Mar-a-Lago, nor does the search warrant or anyone in the criminal investigatory community are making claims that just being sloppy and messy with classified records alone, without intent and without more, with respect to Donald Trump, would constitute criminal conduct. The issue is that since January of 2021, he intentionally stole the records that didn't belong to him. He stole them, and then he lied repeatedly, over and over and over again, concealed the records, moved them around to try to evade the Department of Justice, and before them the National Archives, to get these records back. He had lawyers submit false declaration and affidavits. He wasn't cooperating with the FBI. And what Biden is doing with a less than 20 records, Trump had thousands of records that Trump intentionally stole, including what we believe to be Iranian weapon system records and potential nuclear records, and records about the Chinese government's weapon systems and other things that Donald Trump could use transactionally. And in fact, even when Donald Trump was caught with these records, he basically said, "I'll give you these back if you trade me these documents." That's not the way. It's not the way it works. You're a private citizen. You're no longer the president. You can't engage in that conduct. And so I think that's important to point out as well. This is what Donald Trump says in his next post. "I was president of the U.S. and covered and protected by the Presidential Records Act, which is not criminal and allows and encourages you to talk to the NARA, which we were very nicely until the FBI, who it is now learned has been after me for years without pause or question, raided Mar-a-Lago, a stupid and probably illegal thing to do. As president, I have the right to declassify documents. Biden did not. Special," he puts in quote, "prosecutor Jack Smith, however, is a Trump-hating political thug." Let's address this. Again, at the end, calling Jack Smith these horrific names, threatening the special prosecutor, calling a federal prosecutor a Trump-hating political thug. But talking about the Presidential Records Act, where he goes, is not criminal. What is criminal are our criminal laws. And our criminal laws, like the Espionage Act, like the obstruction of justice section codified in criminal law, like the mutilation and concealment statutes in criminal law. That's what's criminal. Again, what's not being criminally investigated here, or the potential criminal charges, they don't relate to the fact of the classification status. They relate to you stealing government records intentionally, maliciously, and then concealing it. You were not talking to Nara nicely until the FBI engaged in a legal search warrant, you say, which was probably illegal. Again, it's wrong, it's false, it's a lie, and it just shows your lack of truth in everything, your complete immaturity, and just the deranged disinformation. I mean, you went in front of Judge Eileen Cannon, who was a judge who you appointed. She made some terrible rulings, ultimately went to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, and the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals said there shouldn't be a special master involved and that there was no right to preclude the Department of Justice for getting their records back. In fact, you haven't even made the accusation in court, which you could have, and you could at any time, but you have not, because it's not the case when you say that the search warrant that was executed in Mar-a-Lago was probably an illegal thing to do. It wasn't. A magistrate judge, who's the appropriate person in the Southern District of Florida, signed off on it, finding probable cause based on the charges, not of classification status, concealment, mutilation, obstruction, destruction of the underlying records. That's what was being criminally investigated here. And then when you say, as president, I have the right to declassify documents, well, there is a declassification process that's supposed to be put into place. And after you are no longer the president, there's no such thing as declassifying records based on telepathy or based on you just claiming it is. And if you indeed did declassify records while you were in office, there's a process for that, and there would be records for that, and people have to keep track of that, because it's almost worse if you did declassify records that were so vital to our national security without telling our national security apparatus. It almost makes it worse if that's the claim, because now you're placing our military and our foreign assets abroad in harm's way by not telling people who could be affected by the declassification. So you use that as an argument to make it stronger. It actually makes it more dangerous and makes you more of a traitor. And then on the third post, you go, the Boxes hoax case against me should be dropped immediately. I have done nothing wrong. I vehemently disagree here. What you did wrong, it was not a mistake. It was not inadvertent. By the way, even if you intentionally brought it to Mar-a-Lago because you thought that that was something you could do, despite the fact that your own White House lawyers told you that it was something that you couldn't do. But let's just say it was a mistake. Mistakes happen from time to time. Someone in the office of the presidency or the vice president has lots of records and documents, and they go back and forth to houses and they read them in different locations. So from time to time, I'm sure that could happen. However, when you were confronted and spoken and you received communications from the National Archives, you continued to lie and lie and lie repeatedly. And that's the big problem here. You continued to conceal. You continued to deceive. You continued at every step to obstruct, have people sign false affidavits. That's the crime. That's the issue here. That's more than just boxes. That's obstruction of justice. And now add to that, threatening the special counsel. Here's the next post that Donald Trump makes. How come the Biden prosecutor is a nice guy? Very friendly with Democrats and rhinos alike, close to Christopher Wray, and pretty much liked and known by everybody. While my prosecutor, and he puts it in quotes, is a radical left Trump-hating lunatic whose wife and family get a perfect 10 for spewing Trump hate and whose friends are the most evil, angry, and disgusting Marxists and communists in and around government. They are grilling innocent people in grand juries for hours, all to get to Trump. He puts that in quotes. These are sick thugs. Again, calling Jack Smith and friends and family disgusting Marxists and communists, a radical left Trump-hating lunatic, and a sick thug. That's what he's referring to the prosecutor as. I guarantee you that when special counsel Jack Smith criminally indicts Donald Trump, the jury is going to see these posts. They're going to demonstrate obstruction. By the way, I think Special Counsel Jack Smith will use these in his opening remarks, the same way that the Department of Justice is using Donald Trump's statement from the debate Stand Back and Stand By Proud Boys in the seditious conspiracy trial against the Proud Boys. And look, bottom line is Special Counsel Jack Smith is not a radical leftist. He's not even left. He's an independent. He's a war crimes prosecutor. He's someone down the middle. And he's someone who's been a career prosecutor, who's always done his job and followed the rule of law. But here you have Donald Trump just saying these incredibly hateful things. So there you have it, folks. Donald Trump, more attacks on the special counsel, more attacks on Jack Smith, obsessed with it. And the one line here that I think is really important, which we'll be learning more about in the coming week or weeks, is when Donald Trump says they are grilling innocent people in grand juries for hours. We know about a lot of people who have gone before these grand juries, federal grand juries in Washington, D.C., who are investigating Donald Trump's criminal conduct in a number of spheres. But who are these additional people? Because clearly Trump is getting the message from lawyers and from people in his very close inner circle that they are being grilled, and they're not so innocent people. And that's freaking Trump out. And that's these desperate messages that we're reading. So we'll keep you posted on more. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Please hit the subscribe button. We're on our way to 1 million subscribers. Thanks to your incredible support. Also, check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. We've got a lot of great exclusive content that you could only get on our Patreon. But most importantly, it helps grow this independent media platform. So check it out. Until next time, I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.